Knock, knock, knock.
Oh, who's there?
Trick or treat, dude.
Yeah.
Welcome, come one, come all, to the Halloween episode of the Blood Feud podcast. I'm Neil.
I'm Sam.
I think, what is this, episode 6?
This is episode 6.
Dude, we're getting up there. Oh, dude, how great is it that episode 666 is on, or a Halloween episode?
Is on Halloween week. We picked a good time to start this because we fell right into the Halloween season. And we have a really, really fun movie to do for Halloween week.
Yeah, and I kind of already spoiled the name of the movie right off the bat.
It's Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat. Because there is a film called Trick or Treat.
Oh, really?
That's why it's called Trick or Treat, but the Trick or Treat is like a piece of garbage, I think.
Who did... When did this other film take place?
I gotta look it up because I wasn't prepared, dude. Trick or Treat came out in 1986, starring... Is that Ozzy Osbourne?
No.
Looks like, no, it's not, but it looks like him. It's about a famous devil-worshipping rock star who died and comes back to life. I don't recognize... Oh, Ozzy! It is Ozzy Osbourne,
no way.
dude. And Gene Simmons. Remix. We're actually going to be talking about the 1986 Trick or Treat starring Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne.
Guest appearances by Alice Cooper and...
Oh, God, that's awesome.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
That's an all-star cast. I'm kind of disappointed we didn't do that one, man.
Oh, great. Wow, the dude that directed it was in American Graffiti. Dude, he directed Dolphin Tale.
What?
All right, let's get it back on. And Air Bud. All right, let's get it back on topic here. So, yeah, we're talking about Trick or Treat. Unfortunately, Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons aren't in this
bummer,
movie.
Man. I don't think we
Maybe they made a
cameo
cameo appearance and we missed it. Anyway, so Trick or Treat came out in 2007. Kind of an interesting...
Is it 2007?
Yeah.
Something said 2009 and I was confused.
I think I'm going to talk about that because it was supposed to come out in 2007 and they pulled it and they never said why. And the only thing I could find about it was that Saw 5, one of the Saws, was coming out that year. So they pulled it. So it was a 2007 movie that didn't get released until 2009. They started rolling it out, I think, in 07 at like movie festivals and stuff like that. And then like Blu-ray and DVD, I think all that came out in 2009.
Okay.
And honestly, I watched this movie because I had seen this before we watched it.
Now, when did you first see it? A couple years ago?
I watched it a couple years ago.
Okay.
But I had first heard of it, kind of getting off topic again, but 300, that Gerard Butler movie, it was in the previews on the DVD.
Okay, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so
that's a throwback.
Yep. But anyway, so Trick or Treat, directed by Michael Daughtry. You might know him. He's a longtime collaborator with Bryan Singer, the guy that does like the X-Men movies. So Michael Daughtry wrote X-Men 2. He wrote Superman Returns. He's writing the upcoming X-Men Apocalypse movie. And his director credits, he's added some short film. They had one short film, which became Trick or Treat. And then he's got Krampus, which is coming out in a couple months. And then he's got Trick or Treat 2, which was announced a couple years ago, I think. And there's no information about that yet. But
well, I'm very excited that there's going to be a second one because I thoroughly enjoyed this movie.
Great movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't really know. I thought I knew what to expect going into the movie, and I really didn't know what was going to end up happening at all, which is great. The only thing I knew is that there's that character that's pretty...
Sam.
Sammy, I think. Or Sam.
Like
Sam or
Sam.
Sammy.
Sam.
Is it Sam?
Sam.
Okay.
Because it's based on that, and they mentioned in the movie, Halloween's based off like a Celtic thing called Samhail or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. And the only reason I really knew that is because of the opening credits, which I don't want to talk about yet. But yeah, so the character is really cool looking and kind of like oddly adorable.
It's like a little boy with a burlap sack head.
Yeah, you've probably seen the character. It's got like a weird orange PJ outfit on, and then this giant circular sack head. Yeah, I love the design. Really cool. And that's about all I knew. And I figured that this character would actually. Well, I don't want to. I really don't want to say
Let's
anything.
not. Let's leave it at just like a very basic plot summary, because you said it before we started, but this is a movie where the less you know, the better it is. So I guess I want to say, if you're looking for a Halloween movie to watch this weekend, I totally 100% wholeheartedly recommend this. And it's not just a scary movie; it's literally a Halloween movie.
Yeah, I wasn't really, to be honest, I wasn't really even thinking too much about the fact that Halloween is about to happen, and then I watched this movie and it completely put me in that mood. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know it totally is.
In the best of ways. So the film is interesting. It's really about.
It's five.
Is it five?
Yeah. Five separate stories. The IMDb page says 4, but it's 5.
It's similar to. It reminded me of like a movie like VHS. Where there's 4 kind of 4 or 5 different stories that are happening.
Yeah, but the difference with this one is they're all interwoven.
Right.
VHS is like, this happens, then this happens, and there's that base story that kind of connects them all. Whereas there's not really a base story. They're all equally important, and they're all connected.
This is a much better example of how you would create something that's seamlessly blended together, but includes different stories.
It's very similar to Pulp Fiction. If you've seen Pulp Fiction, because I mean, you could almost if Pulp Fiction wasn't a movie, this probably wouldn't be a movie. So
yeah, that's an interesting comparison.
I don't know. You want to I think we should just jump right into. Well, I mean, we both said we liked it, right?
Yeah, maybe we can talk about. Well, I'll just give kind of a brief synopsis of my thoughts on it. You can as well. I don't really want to talk about much else before we dive into it, because I would just say watch it if you're into Halloween. If you're into, it's not like, I don't think it's really that scary of a movie.
No, but it's got gore and it's got scares, but it's not over the top like something you know, like Hostel, where it's like gross out gore, and it's got a little bit of humor.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
It's just a fun movie. Yeah, I think,
and that's what I had said to you. I think I had just texted you and said, "What a fun movie!" Yeah. And it is, and literally, there were probably the latter half of the movie, I was grinning for most of the movie. It put me in a very good mood. And that's really about it. So if you're a fan of horror, but also a fan of very clever kind of comedic storytelling, the interwoven plot is really cool. And I think it doesn't really have much in the way of like below the surface, deeper meaning, you know?
No, it's very, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just, you know, to the point, basically, other than like, you know, the back and forth between the different stories. It's very, I mean, it's simple, but in a good way.
And it doesn't ever take itself too seriously, which is what I think makes the movie so good. Yeah. And there's a definite like 90s feel to this film with that films like Hocus Pocus have. Although I think this film...
that's almost a great comparison. Yeah. This is like an adult Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, it's like a better movie than Hocus Pocus, I think. But if you have this kind of weird nostalgia about Hocus Pocus like I do, because that was just one of those films as a kid that I was like really scared of for some reason, but I also liked it a lot.
It gets you in the Halloween mood.
Yeah, and this film I think hits you where if
right in the feels.
Right in the feels, where the Halloween feels should, if you're into that sort of thing. So let's talk about it. If you haven't seen it, honestly, probably this is one of my favorite movies we've talked about so far.
This is one of my favorite horror movies, period.
Yeah.
So
we highly recommend you watch it. If you'd like to listen to us talk about it, please stay with us. Let's get into it.
So spoilers, go watch it, come back. Yeah. Gather your family around the warm glow of the laptop with your Halloween candy. Yeah. Save some Reese's for me. And let's get into it.
So I want to say that one of my favorite things about this movie, and this is relevant for the beginning, is that it's all about defying and circumventing viewer expectations, both of
100%,
both of genre conventions and of just
what's actually going on.
One of the first ways it does this, and I want to talk about the credits, but after what was that? You chewing gum, boy? No. This movie starts off with two characters. It's a couple.
Yeah, they're
and
dating.
They come home, and you know, the wife like wants to take the decorations down. She's like, I hate Halloween, and he's like, oh baby.
He's like, you can't. You got to leave it up. She's
Yeah.
going to get rid of the jack-o'-lantern.
There's like a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns. Oh yeah, he wants to blow it out, or she wants to blow it out, and he's like,
you got to leave it.
You got to leave it. There's traditions. They're supposed to protect people, which I don't think it's like heavy-handed, but they're kind of setting this ominous mood with these Halloween traditions being set up to protect the living from the dead from the very beginning. And it's, you know, it's kind of quirky. We kind of don't take it seriously, but also it sets up like that ominous mood for the film.
Right.
But the thing I love about this is it makes us feel like these two characters are going to be the main characters, and they really aren't at all.
Yeah.
And almost immediately, and there's all these ghosts in this yard that I think are really cool looking, fake ghosts and decorations.
Like they're just decorations. Yeah,
yeah.
She's got like body parts and
you know, we're talking spoilers now, so you know, be warned. But immediately, one of these characters, the woman, is killed.
Yeah, because she does blow out the jack-o'-lantern.
Yep. And then we see from behind some mask, we see a point of view camera kind of shuffling toward the house once the jack-o'-lanterns are blown out. So I like that idea. And throughout the film, it comes back. I think there's times when there's kind of gaps in the logic of the film where there's jack-o'-lanterns, but it doesn't quite make sense why the scary things can still be around.
I mean, maybe it's just the fact that, like, because I don't want to jump too far ahead,
right.
But to me, the character that cares about the jack-o'-lanterns is Sam, and not those other characters that we'll talk about later.
Right. And anyway, so two things that I like about this opening sequence is that, one, it sets it up to where we think that, you know, in a conventional film, the first characters we see are probably going to be the main characters.
Yeah.
And immediately we realize that's kind of not the case. And this woman is taking down her decorations, and of course the very mischievous, murderous, tiny characters. Well, we think it's Sam. We don't really know.
Going back to what you said, how it kind of plays with your expectations of the genre. So as she's taking down, because you see him walk up, and so you know something bad's going to happen.
Him being Sam. We don't see him yet, but we see
a something walk up.
Yeah.
And so you know something bad's going to happen. And as she's like pulling the sheets off, they're like scarecrows almost. Yep. These scarecrow ghosts, and she's like pulling the sheets off, and the way that the camera frames her,
I loved this,
is like she'll be on one side, and the scarecrow ghost is just as, you know, equally in the frame and in focus. So you're expecting it to like pop out of there.
You're expecting there to be a face behind it, and it'll be like a scare.
It does that like 3 times, and it doesn't ever like overstay its welcome, where like you're like, oh, okay, it's gonna do it again, and then like eventually like she goes and she's like putting the sheets like in the basement, almost like a box. A storage shed, yeah. And like when she puts it in, that's when it jumps out, and like it totally gets you.
Right, but something never jumps out when you think it's going to jump
exactly.
out. And yeah, then she's killed, and it's like, well, one, we thought and then the credits will very quickly roll after her boyfriend or husband comes out and finds her nailed up to one of the scarecrow mechanisms.
And like, because I mentioned it earlier, like they've got like prop body parts hanging around the yard, and it's her. Like you can see it's like real blood dripping from her, and I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah.
And then the credits for the opening credits are going to roll after that, but we kind of find out that they're not the main characters. And it also shows you that nobody's going to be safe in this movie. Right. If you're paying attention, which I didn't really think about that till the end of the movie, the fact that somebody is killed so quick that you think is going to be integral, that becomes a mission statement for the whole film.
I read a thing that said, like if you look at the body count of the film and compare it to the runtime, it's like a death every 3 minutes.
Oh, that's cool.
Or something. Like, you know, I'm sure that wasn't their goal when they set out to make the film, but that just shows like how much is actually going on.
Yeah, it's a relentless film, and I didn't expect it at all. It's another thing you kind of expect horror movies to kind of withhold. There's like not a lot of characters, so you got to hold off until the climax or whatever. But this film doesn't really operate like that, and I love that.
Let's talk about the opening credits a little bit.
Yeah.
It plays out like a comic book.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool. So it goes to it's basically the cover of the book is like the movie poster. And it says Trick or Treat, and it opens up, and it's flipping through the pages, and it basically tells you everything that's going to happen in the movie.
You're right, not in an overt way.
Yeah,
but it's dropping clues and foreshadowing, and I liked it because I didn't really know what to make of it when I saw them, but it introduces the character Sam.
Mm-hmm.
It says introducing Sam. It's kind of cool. And then, what were the other messages that pop up? Like,
it's dialogue. Dialogue will pop up.
Yeah, the
that
principal.
Yeah.
Which I want to see these guys' names.
And then that kind of comic booky feel runs through the whole film, where it'll pop up in like a corner of the screen. And it'll say earlier, or it'll say later that night. Like,
yeah, and that kind of also continues to frame the kind of the feel that you shouldn't really take it too seriously.
Right.
It's kind of happening in a comic book style world, and it makes a lot of sense. I think it sets a good tone so that you don't have to think about things too hard. And we see things such as the principal talking about traditions being set up for a reason. There's something that says always check your candy, and there's a candy bar with a razor blade in it. And then there's who is the old man? His name's
the
like
actor,
Mr.
or
no. His name.
Well,
in the
you
film.
don't know his name, or you do. Mr. Krieg.
Mr. Krieg knows everything, is what you see in the credits.
I missed that.
So I was just like, okay, whatever. It was cool. I was wondering when I saw it if this was going to be foreshadowing or not, and I assumed it kind of was, but I wasn't really sure. After that, we meet another character who's the principal. I love this character.
He's played by Dylan Baker, who I recognize. He's in the Spider-Man movies.
Oh yeah.
He's got he looks familiar, and he plays like a professor. I feel like
Stephen Wilkins.
Dylan Baker.
Right, but that's his character.
That's the character's name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Principal Wilkins, and that's what's kind of cool about this movie is it follows like all the things you'd expect from a Halloween night. So you get like the couple in their 20s that just got back from a party. You get kind of like you get like a middle-aged guy who's handing out candy, and he's kind of about the traditions. You get these kids that are out trick-or-treating. You get the college girls going to a party, and you get the crotchety old man who's not about it. Yeah. And that's like, that hits every point of of who celebrates Halloween.
And there's a point where creating those like including those archetypes is gonna feel cliche, and I kind of felt a little bit like that at the beginning of this movie. Yeah. But as it progressed, again,
especially with the college girls, I thought,
and the kids.
Yeah, I get. Yeah.
Okay. I'll talk about it, but if there's anything I didn't like about the film or I thought was weak about the film, the weakest part is what I'm saying was the kids' story. Because all they did was really serve as a plot mechanism. Yeah, and it's not to say that story's bad, because it's like you said, it's got some twists and turns in it that are really cool. So we're talking about the principal. Yeah, because this film, I mean, I said it before, like nothing ever happens from beginning to end. I mean, I guess that opening scene kind of does, but there's still some details that you miss out as to like when it's occurring. Right, and the film jumps around in time a lot. The first scene you see is the end of the movie. But it kind of we talked about this last week with Crimson Peak, but it goes in a circle. Yeah, which is cool. But this film does a better job of telling a story in a circle. Yeah, for sure, much better. So the principal, Steve Wilkins, comes home to this kind of chubby kid smashing his jack-o'-lanterns. Yeah. And stealing all his candy on his porch because he's got the take one. The typical Halloween thing. And I didn't see this scene coming at all, because this principal's really like kind of like, he's a smart ass, but he's like really like cheeky. Yeah. And he's like, oh, it's okay. He catches the kid. He's like, it's all right. He's got some groceries. But then, he's going to proceed to start talking about Halloween traditions and feed this kid more candy and like poison him. And the whole time he's carving out this jack-o'-lantern and like holding up the knife like in a very menacing way, but he's like, it's not for you. And I loved the knife sounds in this movie. They're so cheesy, but they like work for some reason. For me, they like signify like a menacing. That's one thing about this movie is it's perfectly cheesy. Yeah. Or it's like cheesy, it's good cheese. Like it's, I don't know, it's awesome. Yeah. And I just was so surprised but hilariously intrigued by this scene where this principal kills this kid with candy. There's a hilarious moment where the kid is starting to feel sick, and he's like, the principal's like, you always gotta check your candy. And then this kid starts puking blood. And he kills this kid and will proceed to bury him in his backyard. And I just love how this principal character has been introduced as like he's like a murderer, you know,
right? Because
he's
like for like 10 seconds, you kind of see him as like a goofy, like
yeah, I didn't see it coming.
and then right away he just switches, and he's still kind of goofy, but he's a serial killer.
Yeah,
because he's like burying this body, and like he's almost incompetent in a way where like he's burying it, but the kid's not dead. And
yeah, that was, and then his the principal's son at the same time is like at the upstairs window yelling at him. He's like, "Daddy, Daddy!" And Steve Wilkins is like, "Be quiet," talking about carving a jack-o'-lantern.
Right.
And he's like, "We'll carve it later." And
this whole time he's like beating the kid because he's got a
shovel,
grave
yeah.
in his backyard, and he's like kicking the kid. And
yeah, it's hilarious. And the neighbor also starts calling him, "Who is Mr. Krieg?" I don't want to get too wrapped up in the temporal aspect of this because it's going to get confusing if we try to talk
a whole summary.
Basically, the scene that is happening in the backyard over where Mr. Krieg is yelling for Steve Wilkins to shut up because he's just a pissed old man. Is happening. That's like the last scene in the movie, but we'll get to that. Principal Wilkins also cuts off one of the fingers of this kid to throw it at Mr. Krieg's dog.
Yeah, because that's why he comes out, because the dog is barking.
Yeah. We'll talk about Mr. Krieg is experiencing like the climax of the movie at the same time.
And you're 10 minutes into the movie.
Right.
And the climax is happening at the exact same time.
And you don't really realize it until you get to the end, because in a minute later, Steve Wilkins will walk up his porch, and we hear knocking on a window, and to the right he looks over, and Mr. Krieg is banging on his window saying, "Help me, help me." And Steve's just like, "Well, screw you," you know, and he goes inside. And then we see this thing tackle Mr. Krieg, but we don't really know what's happening. And again, that's what's happening is the climax of the film, but we won't realize it until the climax of the film. And next, Steve and his kid are going to go carve a jack-o'-lantern.
Right. And they go downstairs, and because you can tell Steve is kind of like annoyed by his kid.
Well, yeah, and Steve is talking about how something about like
the mom.
It's not my fault your mother's dead.
Yeah.
So we kind of think he might have killed this kid's mom, and then he grabs this knife and puts it behind his back as he leads his kid downstairs in a very menacing way, you know.
And he's like, "I'm ready to carve the jack-o'-lantern," or something. He's like, "Can we make it a scary face?" And he's like, "Yeah, we'll make it a scary face." And he holds up the knife behind the kid,
and he puts his hand on the kid's head. Yeah. He also says the thing that the kid keeps repeating is, "You've got to help me with the eyes."
Yeah, and
he keeps repeating that. And then, this scene's great because it's like, oh, he's gonna murder his kid. He's a murderer. And anyway, what we basically see is the film makes you think he has stabbed his son in the head, but as the camera pans down, he has actually stabbed the severed head of the kid he has just killed, which is the fat kid that he poisoned with candy. Right. So him and his son are carving this fat kid's severed head out. And it's like a sweet father-son moment, but it's like
he's raising him to be a serial killer.
Yeah, it's just hilarious because like it's so absurd, but it also wasn't anything what you were expecting, and it doesn't really go deeper than that.
He does end up by saying that he has to go because this town is like very Halloween crazy, so like they have a parade every year, and he says, "I've got to go to the parade. I've got a date."
Yeah.
And then that's where you think his story leaves off. But
then we see the kids, right?
And then it's the kids.
3 kids. Actually, it's more than 3.
There's
I want to get there. Well, we've got Rhonda the witch, whom they go to meet.
Right, yeah. There's the witch. There's like the skeleton kid. There's the pirate. There's the alien, and then there's like the angel. There's
5 kids that are going around the town collecting jack-o'-lanterns. They're saying it's for a school project.
While they're trick-or-treating.
Yeah, they're trick-or-treating, but it's not. One of the girls, the leader of this group, is dressed as an angel, which I don't really care. It was just cool that she was dressed as an angel.
And she had like a creepy mask, doll face mask on, kind of.
Yeah, so what they're actually doing, and they get their jack-o'-lanterns, and they go meet this kind of weird girl named Rhonda. They all think she's weird.
They call her, and I'm quoting, Rhonda the retard.
Yeah. And then somebody says, no, she's an idiot savant.
So you can basically tell, like, they go get her from her house, and you can kind of tell where this is going. At least I could.
I didn't think about it. It kind of I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, but it was just
Right. Like, I mean, I figured they were playing a prank on her. You know,
Okay.
Halloween kids.
yeah.
Picking up the kid that no one likes, and the one kid's being overly nice to her.
Now answer this question for me. When they go get Rhonda, they knock on her door, and her house is surrounded by jack-o'-lanterns.
Yeah.
And then of course they're going to ask her, "Is that these yours?" And she's like, "Yeah." That's not the same house as Mr. Krieg's, is it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Well, anyway.
So basically, Rhonda's all into this Halloween stuff. She's the one that tells them about the Celtic holiday that it's based on.
Yep, and that
she
the
tells them
jack-o'-lanterns are
about
supposed to protect
right
them. So they go to this lake where
a quarry. It's a rock.
It's a quarry
with a
right.
lake in it.
There's a lake at the bottom of this pit, and the girl in the leader, the girl in the angel costume, explains, and this is where the plot, the main quote unquote plot that kind of intertwines every story, kind of comes in. That there's a legend in the town that a bus driver was tasked by a bunch of parents of mentally disabled kids who didn't want to deal with these kids anymore, to take these kids in the bus, chain them inside the bus, and do away with them at this quarry.
Right, and it's kind of like the tale of the town, you know, like the myth, the legend that goes around with all the kids.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous, but the whole film's ridiculous. So, you know, why would no parent would do that? But
right,
it's okay. It's just it's the film. And I like the way that these children on the bus are presented, because they all have these creepy masks.
Old school, like, I mean, if you go on Google and look at like old school Halloween costumes, like they're creepy. Like, I don't know how. I mean, I guess this was probably in the 50s, 60s that this film takes place.
Yeah.
But like, if you look at costumes from like, you know, the early 1900s, though, that's kind of what they look like. They
very
got
creepy.
that feel.
Yeah. So but as he is trying to do away with these kids, this is like a frame story happening that the little girl is telling all these other kids. One of the children manages to escape, commandeer the bus, and of course drive the bus accidentally, maybe on purpose. We don't really know.
Well, he's saying he wants to go home, so I think it's on accident, because he doesn't really know what he's doing.
Right, but he'll drive it off the cliff, and everybody will perish. But then we see a weird, curious scene. The narrator says, and the bus driver was never heard from again.
Because Rhonda's like, well, what happened to the bus driver? And nobody knows.
But then in the flashback, we see him escape.
Right.
Which, once you see the whole movie, you realize why that is. But you don't. It was weird to me that they showed that. Anyway, so the kids, after telling the story, we now know that the kids are there to pay their respects, is what this girl says.
Right.
By placing seven jack-o'-lanterns, one for each of the 7 kids, at the edge of the lake. And there's this really creepy old rickety elevator that they use to go down to the lake shore.
This whole scene's got a real cool like atmosphere to it. Like the old rock, not old, but like the rock, the cliff wall and the lake, and like the steam coming off.
Yeah, there's
lake.
all this fog, and it's really cool. You can kind of tell it's like, you can see like the stage, like of how it's a stage.
It's almost like a haunted house type feeling thing, but it's cool.
I think the whole scene's kind of poking fun at that, because the elevator is so rickety, and it doesn't even make sense that it's there.
Yeah,
you know, why is there an elevator going down to?
And
a
the
lake?
one girl has the key to it.
There's a key, and she's like, "We can only go down 3 at a time." And
right.
It's like, okay, this won't end well. So they go down, and basically Rhonda and this one, one of the kids are forced to stay at the top. Meanwhile, we'll just sum this up that they are playing a trick on Rhonda.
Right.
They dress up as these kids that have died, and kind of really cruelly chase her. They trick her into thinking they've been assailed, and then they kind of crawl up out of the mud, and she doesn't like it.
And because she's running away, and she falls and she hits her head.
And
I thought she was dead.
I know, and she crushes her glasses Velma status.
Yeah.
Which I think that might have, given that there is a Scooby-Doo reference later in the film, I think this is a very Velma Scooby-Doo.
Why is it that all the movies we talk about
have Scooby-Doo
references?
Plans in them? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
we should just do Scooby-Doo. Anyways.
But you know, I was like, oh, okay, they're just, that makes sense. They're kids playing a trick on like a weird girl. But then I thought this was kind of predictable, but it was all right, which was that the real dead kids are gonna show up.
And they look creepy too.
Yeah,
they've got those old school costumes on, but they look
and
like
the mud,
zombified
the masks,
in the mud.
but they're covered in mud. And basically, the kids realize, oh, it's real.
Right.
Oh no!
And Rhonda's in the elevator.
Yeah, they try to get back up, but Rhonda's like, nuh-uh. And she
she's
becomes.
Like, you're trying to trick me. They're like, well, it's not a trick. And she's
she knows.
Yeah.
She knows.
Yeah, no, you might be right.
You know, she's just like, forget it. Forget this. And so she, because she becomes very creepy after that and is like, see ya. And then she turns the key and she goes up the elevator, and then we see all the dead kids creeping up behind the ones that are still alive. And then when she gets to the top of the elevator, we just hear them getting their limbs ripped off and screaming.
And at the top of the elevator, Sam's there.
Right, and Sam is there, and Rhonda and Sam kind of lock gaze, and then Sam kind of goes toward the lake, and Rhonda goes back toward town with a basket with some jack-o'-lanterns in it.
And I don't know if you caught this. I think this actually happens before they go down the elevator, but you hear a wolf howl, and she's like, werewolves.
Yeah, great.
And you don't think anything of it at this point.
The other thing that I want to mention is that if you're paying attention to where, like, Sam is kind of the connector between everything.
That's how you, I mean, there's certain ways that you keep the timeline going. So, like, the wolf's howling will give you a clue as to when this is happening, and then Sam kind of, the fact that he can't be in more than one place at one time, or maybe he can, but...
See, during the first half of this film, maybe even the first 3/4, there's not really a sense of huge connection, but I think Sam, if you're paying attention, you know that it's all connected, because Sam kind of turns up everywhere where something bad is happening.
Right. There is, I think, the most obvious point of connection before this is because it's when the college girls get to the party, which happens before this, or at least the beginning of it does. And as they're walking, they bump into the couple from the beginning.
Yeah,
and it's literally like if you hadn't seen the couple from the beginning, it would just be extras.
Yeah,
walking
but that
by.
Also is necessary because then it lets you know, okay, the thing we saw with the couples at the beginning hasn't happened yet.
Right.
So, but meanwhile, while this is happening, there's a group of 3 girls. There's 2 sisters and then 2 other girls, and they're all going to a Halloween party. They're getting costumes, and 3 of them look, very attractive, and the 4th one is wearing this kind of homely Little Red Riding outfit. Is it homely? That's probably right.
Homely means like ugly, wholesome.
Well, no, they think that she looks homely.
Okay,
She looks like a little girl. Looks not.
And they're all dressed up like different. Like one of them's dressed up like Snow White. One of them's dressed up like Cinderella.
And they're clearly trying to be sexy, whereas this other girl, the little sister, is kind of like trying, but she doesn't understand. And then they'll later talk about like trying to get Little Red Riding Hood to lose her virginity.
Right. And they keep saying it's her first time.
It's your first time. Well, the virginity is actually used. Yeah. So I again, it's a cliche that will get turned on its head, thankfully. It's again a very 90s scenario. They're trying to go to a party. They're trying to pick up dudes, and they're trying to show her how to pick up dudes, and she's kind of not getting it.
Right.
So they kind of get some dudes to go with them to a party, and they leave the little sister, Little Red Riding Hood. I want to find her name.
Anna Paquin. She plays
she's
Rogue
Laurie
in the X-Men movies.
Oh, I recognized her. Yeah, so she's Laurie. So Laurie is alone now, looking to try and find a date for this party. Meanwhile, we see that there is a masked assailant, a vampire.
Yeah, he's got vampire teeth, and
he's preying on women at this parade, and nobody really notices because
everyone's in costume.
There's a commotion, so he's making out with girls in back alleys and biting their throats and killing them. And I'm like, okay, so there's a lot of at this point in the movie, I'm like, okay, there's a bunch of monsters that are out and about.
Right.
Anyway, so I forget at what point we actually go to this Halloween party, because I don't think it's
that's like towards the end of the movie. Right. Yeah, but I mean, I guess let's follow that storyline to its conclusion. So, Little Red Riding Hood gets a call from her sister, and they're like, "We got you a date. Just come out here, whatever." And so she's walking out there and walking through the forest like Little Red Riding Hood would.
Yeah.
And that the vampire guy comes sneaking up behind her.
And she kind of locks eyes with this masked vampire
at the parade.
And he's like, "Oh, you can kind of tell he's like, oh, she's my next target.
Yeah.
He's kind of wearing like a really gothic like leather bondage mask.
It's cool looking though.
Yeah, it is cool, and he's got a cloak on. So she's walking. I loved how there's jack-o'-lanterns that line both sides of the trail.
Yeah,
as if there's kind of this awareness that they're keeping things at
right.
bay, which kind of is foreshadowing, because if you realize that those jack-o'-lanterns are supposed to keep the creatures at bay, how does the vampire still make it through? And the reason is, of course, because...
See, I didn't think about it that deep, but...
that was like after the fact.
Yeah.
That was after the fact.
Because I just thought, vampire dude. Like, I figured there would be some type of twist, but I definitely did not see the twist that happens.
Well, and
coming.
I think what I just said is a possibility. I don't know if the movie thought that hard.
Right.
I don't know. But regardless, so the vampire assails her and bites her. And we're like, oh...
And you see her scream,
all right.
And then it cuts back to the party.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like the typical, sorority girl, college horror movie where they're like, I hope she's okay. Like, I wonder what's going on. Like, very cheesy again. But it's on purpose, because we see a body
we see her fall from the trees, the Little Red Riding Hood costume, and it's like, oh shoot, that vampire done did away with.
This is what you think is going to be the storyline, because you can kind of tell that there's like these different storylines going on. So you think it's going to be these college girls versus this vampire, kind of. And then when they peel back the cloak,
hood,
it's the vampire.
It's the vampire, yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's weird. And then they take off the mask.
Or do they take off the other thing first, which is the teeth?
Oh, yeah, they take off the teeth.
Take out, and it's fake teeth. And it's like, wait a second, fake teeth. And then take out the mask, and it's who else?
It's the principal.
It's the principal.
It's Steve Wilkins. What?
Steve Wilkins.
And he's like, because it doesn't look like him at all. Like, you have no idea until the mask comes off. And he's back to his bumbling, like, well, I'm sorry, don't hurt me.
Yeah, he's freaked out. It's hilarious. It's just another thing that was turned on its head. It was not a vampire at all, which is why I said maybe if you're looking at those jack-o'-lanterns and you're wondering why a ghoul has been able to make it past them, it's because it's not a ghoul. It's a serial killer.
But there is a ghoul present.
Yeah.
So it's hard at this point where I think, obviously there's not a whole lot of werewolf movies, but this is one of the most interesting werewolf transformations.
It made me really grinny, really giddy to watch this scene.
So
because now, what's her name? Oh no, I keep forgetting.
The sister, or
Maria. It's not Maria. It's Lori.
Lori, yeah.
Little Red Riding Hood, the virgin sister, quote unquote. It walks into the scene. It's a bonfire in the woods. So if you're paying attention to these scenes where her sisters are on the phone with her, you can kind of tell why are they're in the woods, they're not in the house,
right?
There's clues, but and you can also tell, like, there's a point where one of the dudes that Laurie's sister like lured to this party like wants to like have sex with her, and she's like, not yet, because it's
she's
not
totally
time.
not about it.
That was not time yet for the transformation to happen. But so now Steve Wilkins is looking around, and all these guys are dead, bloody and dead around the bonfire, and it's like, oh shoot, like I didn't really make the werewolf connection yet. And then of course Laurie like jumps on top of Steve Wilkins, and she's like, it's my first time. And the transformation here is so cool stylistically.
Like you see like her back like kind of under her skin like morphing, and then at the same time as this is going on, all the other girls at the party are like peeling off their skin like they're taking off clothes.
And you see the muscle and blood. It's really cool. And then she of course peels her own skin off, or she starts to. Her skin it's her first time, so she like cracks open.
Right, that's why I thought like it's not really referring to sex.
It was definitely, well, yeah. It was there was a little bit of a sexual tone.
I think you're meant to think that until you find out that it's her first time killing someone.
As a virgin, it's in the first transformation.
Right,
So I liked that too, because there really wasn't much sex in this movie. I think they were making fun of it at the beginning when...
Because the dude's trying to like entice her, like, come on, babe, just leave the decorations up and let's go upstairs.
Like, put the tape on. And then it's like a sex tape. Yeah. And that's the only sex that's really in it. And it's so... I think they're just making fun of like that idea. Anyway, so and that was cool. And to be honest with you, the way that they transform their eyes get all cat-like, and their teeth like become sharp. it literally, the first thing I thought of was the end of Scooby-Doo Zombie Island with, you know what I'm talking about, right? With the werewolves.
I like that movie.
And that was what it made me think of. And lo and behold, I think it's the next scene with Mr. Krieg. The first thing we see is that movie is on the TV, and there's the werewolf transforming from that movie on the screen.
That's clever.
Such a cool tie-over.
And this is also where we mentioned it earlier, but when the kids hear the wolves howling,
yeah,
that's this thing going on.
Yeah, and they start howling.
And so, like, you make the connection. Oh, and it's all practical effects. This whole movie, well, I'm sure not the whole movie, but like 90% of it is practical effects, which I appreciate.
Could you explain that?
Like, not CGI.
Yeah.
So, like, the werewolves, you could tell were actual, like, obviously they weren't ripping their skin off, but it wasn't CGI. Like, they were, you know, like actual puppets, I guess, that they made. Yeah,
but it doesn't look... It
doesn't look cheesy.
Look fake or cheesy.
No, it still looks good.
It's very cool. It's very stylized, and you just don't really see that much attention to some kind of unique detail, especially with the trope as old as werewolves.
Right, and the werewolves are only in the movie for a couple minutes.
Yeah,
and also it pans over and Sam's sitting there.
Yeah,
He's
which is what
I
was wondering. I forgot about that, and so that's what I'm saying. If you're paying attention, you know this story is being told. Everything's connected. And if you're really being attentive and your memory is serving you well, you'll remember that Mr. Krieg knows everything. So where do we go for the movie's climax?
Mr. Krieg.
We go visit Mr. Krieg.
Which I think is my favorite part of the whole movie.
Oh, undoubtedly. Yeah. So Mr. Krieg is really grumpy, and he lives alone with crotchety. He lives alone with his dog. And some trick-or-treaters come to his door, and the first thing we see in this scene is trick-or-treaters come to his door, and they open it, and we hear this growling, and
the eyes.
Yeah, the two yellow eyes, and then this growling monster runs out of the door that we don't really see, and these kids book it away.
And it's his dog.
It's his dog dressed up. It's cute, but it's hilarious. This guy just wants to be left alone. His house is not decorated. He doesn't care.
No,
he just wants to drink whiskey or whatever
and watch TV and hang out with the dog.
And hang out. So that's what he starts to do, and then I think he starts hearing some laughter around his house. We also see this really cool scene. He steals these kids' candy. They drop their candy.
Oh,
on his
the kids
porch,
that he scares, and he's eating it.
He's eating it, and then he's watching like this cooking show where raw meat is getting skewered, and it's like, I don't know, it's really cool, and like gross. So he's getting drunk, and I believe he's gonna start to hear like this mischievous laughter of like a little child around his house. Oh, and
kind of to keep the timeline in check, there's a part when he's watching TV, there's a news report on the parade that's going on downtown, so that it tells you that like this is happening congruent to that.
Yeah, because we see that news report earlier in the scene, and the scene actually doesn't open up with the Zombie Island reference, but we see after he scares the kids and takes their candy, he's flipping through TV channels, and one of the channels is Scooby-Doo Zombie Island with the werewolf scene.
That's a good catch.
It was just really that was one of the moments where I was like, this film is really paying attention, like clever, you know?
Right.
So anyway, what's going to happen is Sam is here. He doesn't really realize it yet. He doesn't know who Sam is. But he's creeping around the house, and he gets Mr. Krieg gets like a baseball bat, and he's pretty sketched out. Then he hears Steve Wilkins in the backyard burying the body from the beginning of the film. Yeah. So this is happening pretty early on.
And you get to see, like, because they go out and they have a little brief conversation, like, what are you doing over there? And you see it from his perspective.
Yeah, so, the same lines occur, but then we kind of see from behind Sam's mask, Sam is creeping up on this guy. Anyway, so that happens the same way.
Then he goes back in and he comes back out just to speed it up, and there's all the jack-o'-lanterns.
In the front of his house,
have been set up.
Yeah, so all these random jack-o'-lanterns are there. Anyway, we know if we remember from the beginning of the film that, okay, that already happened. Now we're going to see how Mr. Krieg, why he was at the window saying, help me, to Steve Wilkins. So this is it's the climax, and it's the best scene. I think eventually Krieg gets a shotgun.
Yeah, because there's some weird stuff going on in his house, and we know it's Sam. He doesn't know it's Sam.
Yeah, he'll go upstairs because he hears the noises coming from upstairs, and he'll kind of see glimpses of Sam.
Oh yeah, like he's running around. Yeah.
And one of the best scenes is he'll go into this bedroom upstairs, and it's dark, and he hears like kind of some weird like grunting beneath this guest bed or whatever. And he throws back the sheets in a very horror movie dramatic fashion, and there's just a mechanical skeleton, like,
oh yeah,
making weird noises.
right.
And it's like, oh, thank God. And it's right after that. Oh, I wanna talk about this. Let's look at
jack-o'-lantern catches on fire.
Right, but let's look at this scene. Can we go back? We've got the scene pulled up here. Go a little bit back to where the camera's panning down the hallway. Did you see that?
Up, yeah.
So a jack-o'-lantern lights up with fire, and then all around the hallway.
It's written in like blood. You're supposed to think, and it's like trick or treat. Give me something good to eat.
Like like typical bloody
ceiling walls.
Yeah, and then
from the hallway.
Pause it right there. From down the hall. Well, you can say.
From down the hallway, you see the camera coming in on a zoom, or the camera's actually moving forward.
Yeah,
and this is kind of where it plays with the fact that you've seen Sam's point of view a few times already.
Right.
So that's what you think's going on, and you see it's about the height of Sam, and he's running down the hallway.
Yeah,
the camera is at Mr. Krieg. And then it gets to him, and from under the bed, Sam stabs him with a knife.
Right, so this is another scene where the film is playing with your expectations of horror movies, because we expect this we've already seen the point of view shots. We know that trope, right? But it's not actually a point of view. It actually comes from the right side of the screen, from under the bed. Also, if you're paying attention, you'd know that all of Sam's point of view shots are behind a sack. And that one was not, so you could catch it. But then, of course, Sam stabs him with this blade, and he falls down, and Sam creeps up from behind the bed and kind of creeps really slowly around.
And, like, this is where, like, a whole little 10, 15-minute fight scene between the two ensues.
And before that happens, like, go back to when he stabs, like when he creeps behind the bed, he has this candy bar.
Yeah, with a razor blade in it.
Yeah,
right?
Well, we don't know it yet and we could predict it because we see the razor blade candy bar at the beginning of the credits. But Sam very slowly pulls back the wrapper on this candy bar, and there's like a razor blade coming out. It's so hilarious. It's so adorable. Anyway, yeah, and then he runs for the stairs, Mr. Krieg, and he trips because there's candy all over the stairs. It's so hilarious.
And he falls down the stairs, and there's razor blades on the stairs.
No, there's glass.
Well, there's glass and razor blades because remember it's playing with that, like better check your candy or else there's something in it.
Yeah. So, but then it's hilarious, and there's candy falling down the stairs behind him. Might have been one of my favorite parts because like it's just so like Halloween-y, but it works so well. Yeah, right here. And there's just candy corn and suckers and like weird like gumdrop things everywhere, and I just love that. I love that.
And so he tries to get out, but he can't because his hands are all torn up.
He's falling on the blades that are everywhere and the glass that's shattered everywhere. Oh yeah, there's razor blades. That's hilarious. And he's trying to undo his door because his hands are screwed up, and then Sam's like creeping up above him, and then they start fighting. Right. And eventually, well, this is the scene where Mr. Krieg is going to be able to get to the window and say, "Help me, help me." And then we see from Mr. Krieg's point of view, Steve Wilkins, just kind of motioning, "Screw you." Right. Eventually, though, I mean, there's going to be some more tussling, and he's going to be able to shoot Sam with a shotgun.
Well, he pulls off the burlap sack, too.
Oh, yeah.
And it's revealed that Sam's kind of got like a pumpkin head, like he looks like a pumpkin demon almost.
Like kind of like the movie Pumpkinhead.
Right, I didn't want to...
Yeah, like an alien almost. But, yeah, I was very surprised that they showed his face at all.
Right. And it's cool looking, too, because it's like childlike, but still
like a jack-o'-lantern,
demonic.
I think the back of Sam's head actually is a pumpkin. Like it's got the ridges like a pumpkin. If you look at it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So he shoots Sam.
I thought you meant like a jack-o'-lantern.
No.
Carved out.
It
does. It's a pumpkin, like literally a pumpkin, which is cool.
Yeah. So he shoots Sam in the head, and like the pumpkin juices and like guts come out of him. It's like pumpkin guts.
Yeah. Because he shoots him a couple more times just to be safe.
And he tries to use the phone to call for help,
and Sam's disembodied hand like pulls it off.
Severed hand, like thing from the Addams Family.
Yeah. And it's crawling around, and it starts to put Sam back together.
Yeah.
Like with the pumpkin guts.
And there's a hilarious line as this is happening where Mr. Krieg is like, "You got to be kidding me."
Yeah, he's like, just, "Come on," or
even
something.
Even he recognizes the comedy of the situation.
And I mean, back to the practical effects. Like Sam is all like it looks almost like the Chucky doll from the Chucky series. Like it's practical and it looks real, and that just makes it look so much better and authentic. And so Sam's, because Mr. Krieg's out of ammo.
Oh, I love
and he's kind of helpless.
Yeah, this is
he
great.
smashes a bottle, and he's like gonna have a knife fight because Sam picks up a lollipop and bites it and uses the sharpened edge of it as like his knife.
The bitten off edge is like a knife, and it's like, oh my god.
And you can see they're about to have like a knife fight, and then Sam just
goes in for the kill.
Stabs
what
him.
would you call it? Like a
downward stab.
A downward stab.
And then you see Krieg like in this look of pain, and then it zooms out, and you see the candy bar that Mr. Krieg had been eating was like blocked the blow,
like a Bible would block a bullet.
Right? Yeah.
This candy bar blocked the sucker knife, and then it's just great. Sam retracts the sucker that has the
looks
candy
at the
bar
candy
on
bar.
It. He takes a bite of the candy bar,
and he puts it in his bag. Or no, he keeps it out.
Does he take a bite? Let's see if he does.
He keeps it out, and he kind of skips out of the house almost.
Yeah, he just turns around and leaves.
Which is like, he's finally convinced. He's gotten like his trick or treat, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's gotten this candy.
It's great. Yeah, we're just watching that scene right now. I think he takes a bite of it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Does he? Yeah. Yeah, and then he leaves with his sack
and
of
Mr.
candy.
Krieg's just got this look on his face like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And
and we'll see why Sam decided to leave him alive. After this, pause on this scene.
Right.
I replayed this scene twice because I kind of wasn't paying attention. I'm like, wait a second. Why are they showing this scene here?
And so Sam leaves.
Yeah.
And it goes back to Mr. Krieg, and it zooms up to his mantle place right above the fire.
Yep.
And there's a picture, and it's the kids in the bus.
The kids and the bus driver, the mentally...
he's burning it. That's right.
He's burning a picture. We don't even see him burning it. It's the fireplace, and in it, the picture... a black and white picture of the bus with the mentally challenged kids, and the bus driver is burning.
Right.
And I'm like, wait a second. And so I kind of didn't think about it when I saw it. I rewound it, and it zooms in on the bus driver, and
that's when you kind of figure out that that's Mr. Krieg, and you think that's where it's going to end.
Yeah.
But it kind of gives you like a recap of what's going on. So you see Mr. Krieg is he's all bandaged up from the fight, and these kids come to trick or treat, and he opens the door, and he's not happy about it, but he's willing, I guess. And he gives them candy, and he's not a jerk about it. And you can see he's kind of like in the Halloween spirit. So Sam taught him a lesson, basically.
Yeah, and then you see, after he gives these kids candy, you see the couple from the very beginning of the film coming home.
Right.
And they're experiencing the beginning of the film. So we know now.
But did you also catch, because there's more than that, because he looks over and he sees Sam watching the couple.
Yeah.
And then as the couple, it pans off the couple, and you see Rhonda, and she's walking across the street,
walking back.
and a car slams on the brakes. And all this had happened, but you don't know it's Rhonda at the beginning. And Rhonda is walking across the street, and a car slams on its brakes, and it pans up, and it's the girls, the werewolves, post-werewolf kill.
Yeah, so everybody's coming home for the night.
And then it goes back over to Steve Wilkins' house, and it's his son wearing like a mini Steve Wilkins outfit.
Yeah.
And he's handing out candy.
Yep.
So this kind of gives you like a connected conclusion.
Yeah.
With all the storylines, wraps it all up.
Well, and Sam is here, and he first is staring at... I believe
Krieg.
he's staring at Mr. Krieg, and they kind of lock eyes or whatever, and then Mr. Krieg's just like, all right, and then Sam turns away and starts watching the couple who he is going to assail from the beginning of the movie.
Because he hears her say something about Halloween's stupid.
Yeah.
And he's like, what?
Yep, you can't insult Halloween, and I think this guy even said, the man from the beginning of the film, the couple, the man says, somebody, you might have offended somebody by crushing the jack-o'-lantern or by blowing it out, and anyway, so that comes full circle, and we see Sam shuffle across the road to perform his mischief over there. And then Mr. Krieg thinks it's all over, but of course
the door.
He gets a knock at the
Another
door.
trick or treat.
And completely full circle, behind the door is, of course, the 7 kids from the bus. Back from the dead.
And looking very creepy.
Yep, back to take him. And then after that, the screen goes black when they all say trick or treat, I believe. And they're looking, and he's just like, oh.
And then it goes into the credits, but before it goes into the credits, it's like it goes back to the comic book thing, and it's them all like tearing Mr. Creek apart.
Yeah, and there's some cool sound effects like him screaming and the limbs ripping, and there's a ton of quick flashes of his face, and then the blood and the monsters, and it's really cool. And that's it, and that's all. It completely comes full circle, and yeah, I just left. In that moment, I left with a big smile on my face.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome movie.
I don't know. Like I said, if there's a weaker part, it's like the kids that are playing a trick on Rhonda, because Rhonda never really comes to play a huge role in it. I
was kind of expecting her to actually be like a witch or something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like
she could be though.
Yeah, right.
She could be. They kind of just serve to introduce the plot, which is it's a good plot because it's not overbearing and it connects everything, and just move the plot forward. But I don't think I like how the film focuses on characters, and the characters aren't too crazy, too well developed. I wish we could have spent more time with Principal Wilkins.
Yeah,
I wish we could have spent more time learning about their characters, but it's almost like a short story.
That's
in itself,
I guess that's the thing. Like, if I were to make a complaint about the film, there's not enough. But I can't really blame it. Like, I just want more, and Trick or Treat 2 is coming out soon, hopefully. So hopefully we're getting more. And then they put out a comic book that kind of retold Trick or Treat, and then I literally saw this yesterday. After I had finished watching it, they're putting out, or it already came out, a prequel comic to Trick or Treat.
Yeah, it's so cool.
That goes through 4 different stories from different time periods, and Sam's in all of them.
It's just easy to understand why Sam has become such an icon in the horror genre, because he's such an intriguing, mischievous villain.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about him a little bit, because I see him kind of as being the spirit of Halloween, essentially. And
in the movie,
in the movie, that's what he is. And, because based on the prequel comics, he has been around for a long time, and so I started looking into that.
Okay,
and there's a FearNet, which was that cable channel that only showed scary movies.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And they produced a series of shorts for Halloween, because I guess they used to do like a 24-hour trick-or-treat marathon on Halloween, and there's like a bunch of shorts that feature Sam doing stuff on Halloween, and the last one is called The Night After, and it shows, it pans down and it's showing like candy and stuff on the floor, and then it goes out into the yard and you see a pumpkin seed. You see Sam's body, and then you see a pumpkin seed slithering its way into the ground, which is interesting.
Wow.
So he's that's where it kind of solidified it for me. He is
cool.
The spirit of Halloween, and he comes back every year, and he punishes those that don't follow the
traditions.
Right.
Yeah, that's very cool. And plus, he's always there connecting things and observing things happening. It makes sense. He's kind of it's not like a Grim Reaper character, but kind of.
Yeah, that's a fair comparison.
Yeah, but it just plays into, he's such an adorable avatar, weird character,
right.
And very just stylistically interesting, and I don't know, I just think that works really well, and it's no wonder that he's become such a beloved icon in the horror. But I think a lot of people don't even realize what he is when they see him on a poster or something. So yeah, I mean, just transitioning to some final thoughts here. Absolutely love the movie. I think if it wasn't such a tongue-in-cheek, if it wasn't a movie that didn't take itself very seriously and didn't circumvent your expectations in really interesting ways, it wouldn't be interesting. But it always manages to do something kind of charming and surprising, and it made me smile, and not many movies do that. So, I don't know. That was really pleasantly surprising. And it's also, like we said, it feels like it's absolutely a Halloween movie.
This is one of those movies that I could totally see myself every Halloween watching it. Some people have Christmas, they always watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Every Halloween, I want to watch Trick or Treat because that's how good it is.
And it's not that scary, and I wouldn't say it's too. I mean, it's an adult movie, but like it's not like a family movie. But
No.
If you've got a bunch of friends just on Halloween night, even if you're at a house handing out candy, it'd be cool to have it on just to be in the spirit.
I mean, I might throw it on Halloween and watch it again just because that's how much I love it.
Yeah. Can't really. Like I said, if there's anything I would really critique, it's just that one, we don't really get to spend enough time with the characters. And two is that at times it feels like it just kind of is moving forward to get to that latter half of the film where things start paying off. But I can't really critique it too much for that because I do like the characters and I think it's fun to spend time with them in this film. So I don't know what other thoughts.
Go watch it. I mean, there's not like I said, this movie's to the point. It doesn't overstay its welcome. So like I don't think there's not a lot to say beyond like. It's just a good, fun movie. Yeah, like, go watch it. There's nothing
really below the surface, but if you're paying attention to the cues and the clues that the film is giving you, literally throughout from the beginning to end, you're gonna have fun trying to figure it out.
Oh, and it was definitely one of those movies where, like, as soon as I got done watching it the first time, I was like, I want to watch that again now because you wanna see, like, what are all these connections? Oh, the wolves were howling, or you know, stuff like that. So. I mean, I'm glad I got to watch it again.
And I'm glad I got to watch it for the first time. It was a great film to do for the week of Halloween. Yeah. And I look forward to a sequel for that. I also look forward to Krampus a lot more.
Because I know you were kind of on the fence about Krampus. And I was like, oh, my God, this is going to be the best. Because I had seen this before. And I was like, Michael Daughtry, unless he proves me wrong with Krampus, is one of those directors where I'm going to go see something. I'm going to go see everything he makes until he makes something bad.
Yeah. So we'll be bringing that to you. I think that comes out in November, right?
I mean, I'm assuming soon, November, December. When it comes out, we'll be doing it. Yeah. Comes out on Friday, we'll have the episode up on Wednesday. Yeah. The following Wednesday. So IMDb says December 4th.
Oh, yeah, it's the day before my birthday. That's right.
Yeah, happy birthday.
So that'll be nice.
And then I guess just a couple housekeeping things before we're done. Send us a comment. Send us recommendations. Actually, next week we're going to do our first recommendation that we got, which was Martyrs. So shout out to whoever sent us that recommendation.
Yep. Martyrs is apparently one of those infamous kind of brutal...
Like a Serbian film.
Hostage films. I know very little. I'd have to read a synopsis, and I don't want to look at that right now.
Yeah, no, this is one that I've had on my radar because I've heard about how messed up it is.
It's on like cult listings for was it August Underground or stuff like that.
So thanks to whoever sent us that, and send us more. We will get to them if it's something that we feel like would be good for the podcast. And like us on Facebook, just Blood Feud Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Blood Feud Pod. You can send us an email just send us a Facebook message.
Check out our YouTube channel.
Check out the YouTube.
All other podcasts. That's how we're doing it.
Right. SoundCloud doesn't let you upload stuff all the time. So YouTube's, I think, simple enough and easy enough. We're working on getting on iTunes for you guys.
And please, other than that, leave us a comment, leave a discussion point if you have some different thoughts or something to add.
And then just real quick, wanted to give a shout out to some kids in my film class. They are starting out a podcast too. It's called Popular Static. We're horror. They just cover everything movie wise. They run through news. They run through new stuff, old stuff. They're good dudes. Go check it out.
Yeah.
I think that wraps it up, right?
Yep. It's cool to hear some other discussion going on about movies and that form of stuff in general.
So yeah, make sure you go watch Trick or Treat starring Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons. I feel like we should do that movie.
Oh my god! Next Halloween.
Next Halloween.
As always, guys, thanks so much for listening. This has been Trick or Treat. Next week is Martyrs. Have a good Halloween. For now, I'm Sam.
I'm Neil. And keep it spooky.
Keep it ever so spooky. We'll see you next time. Bye.